Welcome to today's Training Thursday edition of the Cabral Concept. We will be back over the next few weeks with our conversations with Cabral. Just took a little break from that with all the different great interviews with guest experts because there's been a lot of questions that have been coming in on certain topics that I have wanted to address. So again, the interviews will be back. Can't wait for them to get started over the next couple weeks. Just as a little teaser, we have a great interview on PCOS, so we'll be talking about that. We have a brand new debut by Melissa Ambrosini, so I'll be bringing you that podcast. We've got a great interview on mindset and how to set your own values and kind of live that life with Dr. DeMartini that's coming up. So there's a lot of fun shows that are in the queue, and they'll be coming up over the next 3 weeks or so. But today, I wanted to bring you this because this question has been coming up over and over. And again, I have a background in fitness, which again is like one of my first passions, that nutrition. And because of that, I want to be able to share with you some insights into a lot of people dealing with the virus, the virus that we all know causing the pandemic around us, and the longer term effects that people are feeling with their workouts. This has really been brought to life. I'm sure not everyone, and maybe not even a lot of people are MMA, mixed martial arts fans, but I did martial arts for over 20 years of my life. And I loved it because of the discipline and because of the expansion of my mind. And it did a lot for me. I really, really, really enjoyed it. And I enjoy watching it as a sport. And I know that it is violent when you're watching it. But you can also watch it from a technical aspect. And you can watch it from, believe it or not, a lot of camaraderie and the competitiveness and all that. But anyway, there have been a few fighters that have actually tested positive for this particular virus. And it has thrown them off for weeks and months in terms of recovery. And I want to share with you why even elite athletes might have difficulties with viruses. Now, remember, it's not just this virus. A lot of people like to make it out as that this is some, special, different type of virus. And I know it goes against the current thought process and media. It is its own virus. There's no doubt about it. It's a specific strain of a particular virus. This particular virus that has been around for many, many years. This is just a particular strain of this virus. Now, again, it does matter. It is serious, but I take all viruses serious as well. So what I would say, though, is it affects some people more than others. Now, why is that? Let's start to look at that today, but let's also go through how would one of these elite athletes or your everyday person looking to get back in their workouts begin to be able to get more movement and activity based in their life, which means more energy. So let's look at this. So we have to understand is that some people are treated differently in the way that they go about handling this virus. There are a lot of people that allow the virus itself, if they're healthy, to take its course, meaning that they may use some good vitamin C and quercetin and zinc and vitamin D, and they get lots of sleep and they get lots of rest and they allow their body to naturally fight it. Okay. Now there are some people who, right at the first sign of it, they get antibiotics. Okay. So they take antibiotics or they take certain types of drugs, and that's their choice. And then there are some people who really need that because they end up getting really, really sick. So there's a difference. Like there's a difference with whether you're using kind of like a just antibiotics prophylactically. So you say, I don't want this to get worse, so I'm going to take that. I remember working with a few people automatically, no matter what, if they started to get a little something congestion in their sinuses, right away they would take an antibiotic. Like, I don't want it to turn into a sinus infection. Well, little do they know it's 100% relapse rate for taking antibiotics for a sinus infection. But again, I digress. So what I want to share with you is this, though. By using antibiotics, again, sometimes they're needed. When you do take them, they can, in many people, begin to affect the mitochondria. So you say, well, they're really meant to kill off bacteria and, potentially the bacteria causing inflammation in the body. And I get it. And they actually do that, right? So they do that if the right antibiotic is chosen or a broad spectrum antibiotic. The problem with the broad spectrum antibiotic, which is typically what's used, like an erythromycin, azithromycin, is that or doxycycline, is that we're killing. So again, like if we look at Lyme, we're killing a lot of the mitochondria in our cells. Now, mitochondria are bacteria, so it makes sense, right? But a lot of doctors don't think of it that way. The problem is, let's say that you kill the bacteria, whatever it is. And again, I know that antibiotics are not going to kill a virus, but believe it or not, a lot of doctors prescribe antibiotics as well. And they do that so that a bacterial infection wouldn't progress. But again, we're not going to get into that today. So what I share with you is this, is the antibiotics, yes, they'll kill the bacteria, but they can also kill the bacterial mitochondria in your cell. And when you have less mitochondria, you produce less energy in the form of adenosine triphosphate, which is ATP. So ATP is actually what's allowing you, especially for anaerobic-based energy, to make energy, which is why it can be a chore to go up 2 flights of stairs if you don't have a lot of mitochondria. And I can raise my hand and say, when I, for about a decade, did not have a lot of mitochondria, okay? I was a shell of my former self my senior year in high school. So I got sick around October, November or so my senior year. And I had played 3 sports every season forever, and I loved it. I love sports. I really do. I've always loved sports. I was never the best at any one of them. I'm not going to say that, but I was competitive. I loved it. I loved the camaraderie. I did well. Wasn't the best. I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed the team aspect. I enjoyed competing. I enjoyed sports. When I tried to come back, because I was wiped out the whole winter, all of that, when I tried to come back in the spring for track and field, which I did, I threw javelin, I ran the 4x4 relay, and I ran the 800. Sometimes I would run the mile. When I came back to that, I was literally a shell of my former self. I had no sprint. My body was saying sprint during that 4x4. And we went, and again, like, not the best, but we went to the state championship the year before. And we did well in that event. I could not compete. I couldn't compete that season. During the tryouts, which we would just normally do at the start of the year, I took off, I was ready to go, and my legs were not responding. I was done. There was ATP, of course, being produced because you stay alive with ATP, but I was not able to sprint. And I knew it right then. And I said, wow, that was really strange. I'm going to try that again. Even my coach looked at me because, again, like I was a competitor. I usually could do okay. And he thought that I was just kind of dogging it or I hadn't been training. And when I tried it a second time, I realized I didn't have it. I was done. And it was really sad for me. Like I got a lot taken away from me with that illness. And I don't think I've ever said it before, but sports was one of them. I never competed again. That was it. That was the end of my sports. Never played in college, barely played anything intramural. I had myalgic encephalomyelitis. Addisons disease I later found out is what I had. And I was not able to produce cortisol, was not able to produce those natural anti-inflammatories, was not able to produce ATP. So now I've overcome that today, which is great. And I do sprint triathlons now, and I do weightlifting, and I go for runs, and I swim in a pool, and all the great things that I wanted to do back then. But there's a reason for that. And that's because I took 3,000 capsules of amoxicillin until I was, 17 and a half or so, when I got this particular dis-ease of my body. And it slowly but surely wiped out a lot of the mitochondria in my body. Sure, it was keeping away some acne and some coughs and colds, but look at the detrimental effect it had on my body. So what I'm saying is this. For many people, it's not the Lyme, it's not the virus, it's not whatever the acne or whatever it might be that's causing the actual energy issues, right? It's the antibiotics that we took in order to get rid of whatever that thing was. And I'm not saying that it's sometimes not needed. It is. If you have a staph infection or you're going the antibiotic route for Lyme, then that's what you use, okay? I get it and I understand. But just understand that there are repercussions as well. So I just wonder with a lot of these fighters, did they take an antibiotic whether they needed to or not? Because do keep in mind that most healthy people, 99.97 we're finding now, are recovering from this particular virus. And again, when I say that, it doesn't mean that it's not serious. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't take precautions. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is simply the truth and the real statistics. So if you need greater intervention, I did a whole podcast on it. I gave you the conventional medicine protocols to use if you ever have to go to the hospital, you or a loved one. Okay. You can show them the protocol that's now shown to work. And if you want to go the natural route, I also showed you the natural route. Okay. So you can go to stephencabral.com/podcast. I have a whole category now just on this virus. All right. So I don't want to go deep into that today, but what I do want to share with you is this, is that besides the mitochondrial aspect, which affects many people, and again, the mitochondria can be rebuilt, which is great, but it also begins to create inflammation from gut-based issues and others. And this inflammation from these viruses, because your body is basically attacking the virus replications in your body, and that takes a lot of energy. It can lead to brain fog. It could lead to low blood pressure in some people. It could lead to low white blood cell count in some people, low energy, low cognitive ability, low endurance. So just keep in mind, a virus itself that continues to replicate, like I had Epstein-Barr virus, is very detrimental to your energy. And I'll tell you right now, again, someone that's experienced Addisons disease and ME and POTS, I know what it's like to have zero energy, to walk around as a zombie, literally a waking zombie all day. And now I know what it's like to have almost unlimited energy, except a few times a year when I catch a virus or a cold, because I have 2 young daughters, they bring it home from school. I get it. And I'm like, okay, here we go again. It's like, yeah, my energy goes down for 3 to 5 days or so. And I think to myself, wow, now I remember why I do what I do for my own health so that this doesn't happen every day of my life, because this is terrible. It is terrible to have no energy. It affects your mood. It affects your mind. It affects your work, your output, your relationships, because you're not a happy person when you have no energy. So again, inflammation, because I'm not taking antibiotics when I get a cold, is also from these viruses. So we do have to make sure that we're doing things to boost our immune system. A lot of people, though, it's like, well, how fast do you bounce back? Well, I got this particular virus now, more than a year ago, and I was sick for about 4 days. I had a high fever for 3 days. I lost my sense of taste and smell for about 2 weeks. It came back at the end of the 3rd week, gradually started to come back the 3rd week. So I've found that many people bounce back faster depending on 2 things. Their natural, innate genetics and immune system. There's no doubt about it. But really a second one is, how healthy were they before they got this particular virus? Now, some people, they weren't even healthy before, but they've got great genetics. And so, again, I applaud them. That's great. I don't have the great genetics, but I've worked hard on my immune system. So I got sick for 3 days, started to recover the 4th day. Okay, that was good. I know a lot of other healthy people because I work with them. I work with a lot of healthy people, and they got it, and they were sick for 8 days, 9 days, 10 days, 2 weeks. Lo and behold, we ran their labs afterwards, like, what's going on? They were low in vitamin D, or they were low in vitamin C, or they were low in something that the body needs to fight infections, viral or bacterial based. So again, even though we're kind of feeling healthy, are you getting the nutrients that your body needs? And again, we know now, how many more studies do we need that vitamin C, zinc, and vitamin D, at least those 3, are absolutely crucial for overall health? Now, I would say you still need all the others, like your B vitamins and your vitamin E, but again, I will digress. So when we look at that, we have to understand is that a lot of these athletes, like let's say the MMA fighters who are getting ready for competition, then they got tested, they found out they had it, and they got sick, is that they're in rigorous overtraining as well. And so although you might say, well, this person's super fit, yes, but are they super fit in the inside? Probably not. They've been dieting for the last few weeks to get down to weight. They've been training for hours and hours a day. Are they getting proper sleep? I don't know. What's their emotional makeup? How stressed are they there? So we just have to look at this as like, well, sometimes the fittest people aren't the healthiest people. And that's important to look at it. Also, what was their gut microbiome like, right? Do they have yeast overgrowth, bacterial overgrowth? Are they dealing with that every single day? Do they have intestinal permeability? So really important to look at that. Inflammatory foods that they're taking in. But today's show is really about how do we battle back with exercise? Because there's a lot of people out there who are wiped out and they want to get back into exercise. What I share with you is this. Make sure you are getting the nutrients that you need first. You have to build up before you put out. So remember, think of it this way. When you exercise, you're giving out energy. All right? You're giving out energy. If you're exhausted and have brain fog and no energy, you need to take more energy in. So that means that you need more nutrition. So this is why you want easy to digest meals. Okay. You don't want to go too long with your intermittent fasting. You want to make sure that you're doing something like the daily foundational protocol, level 2 or level 3, which is simply all of your vitamins and minerals, electrolytes every single day, enough protein and amino acids, something like a daily fruit and vegetable blend to get all of your greens, which you're probably not going to be able to consume a ton of food right now because you're exhausted, right? You want to be able to get your omega-3s for its natural anti-inflammatory effects, a good daily probiotic support, and maybe a daily digestive enzyme to help break down the food that you are eating. That's your minimum. Then what I would recommend, and again, this is not a medical treatment protocol. This is not a diagnosis. This is not a cure for any disease. I'm giving you what I would do. I would get 2 to 3 grams of vitamin C on a daily basis, ideally in divided doses, at least 1 gram. Then you want vitamin D. Most people need about 35 IUs per pound of body weight. I don't know how much you need, but if you ran something like the stress hormones, mood, and metabolism test, you'd you'd find out what your vitamin D levels are like. And then you need zinc, okay? Now, do I recommend 50 to 75 milligrams for 2-3 weeks when you are sick? Yes. Do I recommend over 50 milligrams a day after 2 or 3 weeks? No. You should be under 50 milligrams a day of zinc for most people. Okay. Again, or if you're working under a qualified health practitioner, then you can do as they recommend as long as you're testing. So, but you still need some zinc, right? And most people need more than 15 milligrams a day, but 15 milligrams is a good place to start if you're not getting any right now. But that'll be covered in something like the daily nutritional support. So I really recommend, what I do is the daily foundational protocol level 3, and then I add the immunity protocol. That's what I do every single day. You're welcome to do the same. You're welcome to look at what it is. You're welcome to come up with your own plan as well. That's totally up to you. Okay, so now you brought nutrition into your body. Do that for a couple weeks minimum, okay? Fill back up those deficiencies, because when you're sick and you get hit with the virus, it wipes out a lot of those nutrients that your body needs. Glutamine, vitamin C, B vitamins, zinc, they're one of the first to go. They're one of the first to get depleted. That's why a lot of people get white spots on their nails during a virus or cold. They lose their sense of taste and smell. You start to go through that zinc really, really fast. Okay, so now what do we do for exercise? Well, now that we say, okay, we got our stores going, let's start with understanding that we can't give out more energy quite yet. And we need to get the body moving though. So we want to actually do something that's not going to increase the inflammation load. Because remember, by definition, we're probably inflamed. So we can't do anything that causes inflammation. Well, what causes inflammation? Well, overexertion causes inflammation. Overheating your body is a stressor, which causes inflammation. Muscle tissue breakdown causes inflammation. So what does this mean? Well, it really means then we can't overdo it with heavy, hard weight workouts yet. So what do? Well, we have to find our threshold. So I talk about this inside of the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, where we train health coaches and practitioners. And we use something called a graduated exercise protocol. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a gist of that today. You want to start with the lowest amount of work that you can do to see how it affects your body. And that's simply walking. So you want to walk for about 20 to 30 minutes. And you want to say, how do I feel later that day and the next day? Do I feel more inflamed, more exhausted, more tired, right? Because if the answer is yes, then you still overdid it. You might say, well, I want to get into it more, but you can't yet because you're using that as a barometer for how your body is dealing with inflammation and stress. Walking's still a mild stress, but it's a stress. So what could you do? Well, if that inflamed you, you could do 10 minutes instead of 20 or 30. But if it didn't inflame you, and it probably won't, then you could do that each day, but ideally the first week it's every other day, okay? Allow the inflammation to cool and not fill up the rain barrel, okay? Allow it to cool every other day. Now, if that's working well for 1 to 2 weeks, good. You work up to your daily walking. Now you might say, okay, let me try the next level. Well, the next level up, without creating overexertion, overheating, or muscle tissue breakdown, would be some light cardio, like on an exercise bike. Running would probably create some tissue breakdown. So we're going to do an exercise bike, or maybe a light elliptical. There's no impact there, even though it's not my favorite machine, but we could do that, free runner. And you could do that just for 10 minutes, 20 minutes maybe, maximum. How do you feel the next day? How do you feel later that day? Any tired, any fatigue, exhausted, wiped out, brain fog, joint pain, flu-like symptoms? Because if you do, then you overdid it. If you didn't, great. Now you can do that every other day. You do that for a week or two. You feeling good? Good. Now what do? Well, now we start to challenge the body. more neurologically. We do that with body weight exercises. Why? Well, first of all, like, again, I should have stated this in the beginning. Why am I doing this show? A lot of personal trainers, a lot of integrative health practitioners also listen to the show. I want to share this with them because you're probably dealing with, or will deal with in the future, clients that got really sick. This is the way to bring their bodies back to life gradually. And this will also, believe it or not, create what's called mitochondrial biogenesis. As long as they're doing something like the daily foundational protocol, they're going to get the nutrients they need in order to make the mitochondria. They're eating a good whole food diet, of course, as well, anti-inflammatory diet. Check out Tuesday's show on the flexitarian diet. That will give you more information. So this is to help clients really bring their bodies back to life. And of course, you can do it yourself. So the next thing that you want to do is you want to do some body weight exercises. Tissue breakdown shouldn't be there. Overexertion shouldn't be there. Keep your reps above 10, probably somewhere around 15. Why? Because you know that you're not going to neurologically tax the system if you could do an exercise for 15 repetitions. Okay? So you know you're just not going to overdo it. Now, volume becomes the issue here. Don't do more than 1 to 2 sets. I know it doesn't seem like a lot. Do 3 exercises, 4 exercises, 5 maximum of 1 set the first time you try them. Again, don't go to failure. Try some push-ups, try some inverted rows, try some bodyweight squats, try some bodyweight lunges, try a V pose or a plank, something like that, okay? Don't overdo it. How'd you feel later that day? More tired, exhausted? How'd you feel the next day when you woke up? And if you're checking your biometrics, what's your deep sleep look like? What about your REM? What about your rest and heart rate? What about your HRV? That will tell you a lot about your recovery, okay? We've talked about that in previous shows, and again, I'll talk about that much more in the future as well. So let's say it's going well. Let's say it didn't go well. Okay, well, you're not ready for it yet. Another week of doing cardio, another week of getting good nutrition and sleep, using the whole de-stress protocol, right? The diet, the exercise, the stress reduction, toxin removal, rest, emotional balance, the supplements, and the success mindset. Okay, so you wait another week. Okay, now you're ready to try it again. You try it again. Okay, this time you're not exhausted. Good. So you do 1 set that week of your movements. Now the next week you try 2. How did 2 feel? Oh, you start to feel a little tired the next day. Okay, but not too bad. Okay, let's stick with 2 because you didn't feel too bad. You don't need to drop back down. This is the way that we gradually get the body better and start to create that mitochondrial biogenesis, which is creating more mitochondria in the body through gradual hermetic stressors. I will try to link up a show today at stephencabral.com/1903 on hermetic stressors that allow you to gradually increase stress in your body to make it stronger and not wipe it out. So as long as you're giving yourself a day between these workouts to allow inflammation to subside, maybe even 2 days if you need it, because you might need the recovery, and you're getting that 8 to 9 hours of sleep, which you need when you're recovering from a viral or bacterial-based illness that's very, very important, then you can begin to add more stressors to the body. Even when you're feeling good, though, do not go overboard. Remember, your body just recovered from a strain, a big strain on the body. Remember, you have the rest of your life to exercise. You have the rest of your life to work out. You have the rest of your life to compete, whatever it might be. Gradually begin to work yourself up. This is truly the way how you overcome a lot of these long-term viral-based effects. So hopefully today's podcast was helpful. Of course, if it was, let me know. Always provide your feedback right over on Instagram, just my name, Stephen Cabral, or in the comments right below on YouTube. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you. Feel free to share this show with anyone you believe it could serve.